What a glorious day! The Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer has now dropped. It is online. You can check out my reaction in the description down below. Absolutely blown away. Goosebumps, was even close to getting teary-eyed. But what I'm going to be doing here for you now, guys, is breaking down the things you might have missed in this trailer. I'll be giving you some references to the past movies, a little more insight into the film, and things that were revealed in this trailer that gives us an idea of the villain of the film. So please hit that like button till it's blue, like the lights on the Ecto-1. They might actually give us a good Ghostbuster movie for once. Alright, so beginning off with the trailer, it started off with Finn Wolfhard. Now, his character name is Trevor. He is going to be one of the family members of the main cast that we're going to be following in this Ghostbusters movie. He is around the age of 16, so he's old enough to drive that Ecto-1, which we will see later in this trailer. Looks here like we already have a romantic interest, and he's being quite honest about why his family moved away from the big city into this small town. Right there is our first insight into why we're following this family. This family is connected to one of the Ghostbusters. This trailer further confirms that it is Egon's grandchildren that we are following, but they could turn it around and twist it on us. I'll explain why in a sec. But the family is in a financial hardship and they are getting evicted out of their house, moving us here to the only property that the family owns, and it is this farmhouse. Now, the only reason Ghostbuster fans right now are split on who this Ghostbuster house could belong to is because if you remember in the first 1984 Ghostbuster movie, Dan Aykroyd's character, Ray Stantz, had a scene where he had to go to the bank to get a second mortgage on his home out of town, and this could be that home that we're looking at. So we are caught between whether it's Egon's family or it is Ray Stantz's family. But I gotta say, creepy looking house here and perfectly fits the Ghostbusters environment. That barn house is also going to be containing all the old Ghostbusters equipment, the Ecto-1, proton packs, PK meters, and a bunch of books and notes from the Ghostbusters adventures that we missed out on until, well, the Ghostbusters split up. But getting back to the love fest that was going on with Finn Wolfhard and this new character, they begin to feel a rumble underground around the mine shaft they are at, and they look down and see that famous green glow that a ghost is in town. There are important implications in this trailer that give us a real hint to what is going down in that mine and who the villain is, and it's definitely a big callback to the first Ghostbusters movie. But before we get to that, we get to Paul Rudd's character, who I'm gonna say is an honorary Ghostbuster because he's gonna be helping these kids bust some ghosts. The man is a seismologist, meaning he studies earthquakes, and that is the reason he came to this small town, because like he breaks down in this trailer, this town is under no tectonic plates, but on a daily basis they have rumblings and shakes. As a part-time gig though, he becomes a teacher while he's studying these earthquakes, and that is how he interacts with these younger Ghostbuster kids. His teacher name was Mr. Gruberson, and he was also a witness of the Ghostbusters event in 1984. He remembers it vividly and has been obsessed with the situation ever since he was a kid. That's why he recognizes the ghost trap up close and knows a lot about the Ghostbusters, more than some, because in this world, since it has been 30 years since the last ghost sighting, people started to rumble that everything was made up, that it never really happened, that it was a conspiracy, much like some people believe 9/11 wasn't real. A fun Easter egg I want to throw out there that they have here inside the house, you can see the way these books are being stacked. That is a callback to the librarian ghost in the first Ghostbusters movie, who when haunting this place would stack the books up that way. This could be a hint that that librarian is out and loose and is stacking books up like that because it is one of the ghosts that they encountered back in the day. Maybe they eventually caught it and it's in a containment unit somewhere on this property. When we move on, we get to see Phoebe fumbling around with her grandfather's belongings. She will obviously solve whatever Rubik's puzzle has to get her under the floorboards. Once that is complete though, her and her brother will have two different paths. Trevor's character being 16 and wanting a car desperately, but because his family is poor, he will do everything in his power to fix up the Ecto-1. And Phoebe is going to be more interested in the technological side of the Ghostbusters, messing with the PK meters, looking at old notes and cases that the Ghostbusters went through. And it's also worth mentioning, I know a lot of you people will say, no, that's just some sort of trash bag. No, that right there is one of the ghosts. That is actually the specific ghost that they are chasing towards the end of this trailer. I really wanted to believe that that ghost is Slimer, but he just does not look the same way. He might be a Slimer-like character, but that is our first sighting of a ghost in 30 years. When Phoebe finally gets underground to explore all the Ghostbusters equipment, just looking at the lab, this screams to me Egon, because it's so meticulous, so organized, so OCD, and that's exactly who Egon was. I also believe it is Egon because when she gets to the actual Ghostbuster suit, that is so nice to see them there. The first one she looks on is Spangler. That is Egon's last name. Also worth pointing out that there is only 4 suits here, when in the second movie we had Rick Moranis become a 5th Ghostbuster member. If you don't know, a long time ago Rick Moranis quit Hollywood. It's a very tragic story if you want to look it up. A lot of us are hoping he will somehow just make a cameo appearance, and with the villain in this film, it would only make sense because, well, he is the Keymaster. But it looks here like we're just going to be focusing on the main 4 Ghostbusters. And speaking on the villain, next in the trailer is our biggest clue to who the villain of this film is. The kids decide to investigate a mine shaft in this town because of all the underground activity, believing that they can find whatever ghost is responsible, and the name of this mine is called Shandor Mining. If you're a Ghostbuster fan, Shandor is a name you know. This is the same name as the architect who was responsible for the building in the first Ghostbusters movie. Basically, this architect was obsessed with the ghost world, demons, and very naughty stuff. The way he architects a building or a location is basically meant to be a portal for the villain known as Gozer to come out and wreak havoc. It could be that Shandor architected this whole small town, or at least that mine shaft underground, and the entire city is a portal for Gozer to come back out. It's the same reason why Sigourney Weaver's character was so important in the first Ghostbuster movie. She lived in the building in the same unit that was the key entrance for Gozer to come out. And if you have Gozer involved, that means you need a Keymaster and a Gatekeeper. We know Sigourney Weaver's coming back. She could play Gatekeeper again. And Rick Moranis, you better show up to be that Keymaster. It's obviously probably going to be Paul Rudd's character as the Keymaster who gets taken over by some ghosts. It's also worth mentioning, while this montage of the kids going to the mines and Finn Wolfhard opening up the Ecto-1, we get a callback to the first Ghostbuster movie where Bill Murray's character is trying to convince Dan Aykroyd's character to start this thing where he says, call it luck, call it karma. That's a huge nod to the fans that Bill Murray is involved in this movie, because all 4 Ghostbusters are confirmed to make a cameo or small appearance in this movie. Along with that, though, we have further confirmation of this villain and the portal where this being will be coming out of that Phoebe is staring at. But the big shocker is the terror dogs are back. Those goofy looking dog thingies that were in the original Ghostbuster movie, they have come back. One is stomping on the car right there. Undeniably a terror dog paw. I don't see what other being would be that way. Again, it's just further checking off that Gozer is the villain of this movie. From that quick shot, though, we do get a look at the barn. Now, I told you the barn will have the Ecto-1 and all the Ghostbusters equipment, but it's very important to notice that the roof of this barn has caved in. Another time in Ghostbusters history where a roof caving in is an important fact was in the 1984 movie when the containment unit went haywire and shot up all the ghosts around the city. This is what must have happened to the city as well. The containment unit that is being held in this barn must have finally malfunctioned, gone out of whack with the Ghostbuster dead and no longer able to take care of it. It erupted out, caved in that roof, and now this small town is filled with ghosts all over. It's also cool to know that there's spare old cars, and I think this is how Finn Wolfhard is going to be able to fix up the Ecto-1. And speaking on the Ecto-1, there are a lot of fans asking questions about this because this is technically Ghostbusters 3. It follows along the story from Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2, but then that has fans wondering, where is the Ecto-1A, the remodeled Ghostbusters vehicle that was in Ghostbusters 2? It was never really quite confirmed, and it's a little bit iffy, but I always assumed that it was a second car. That the Ghostbusters vehicle that we had in the second movie, that was a brand new car, a new model that they set up, and the first Ghostbuster car went to this shed, went to this hometown of Egon or Ray, and that is why we are following this specific version and not the 1A that was remodeled up. Or in all honesty, they could just be ignoring the events of Ghostbusters 2 just since it wasn't that well liked. This is definitely paying a lot more homage to the first movie from all the things we've seen so far and the villain they have in this movie. And the final little Easter egg or callback that we have in this film is Phoebe riding the gunner seat of the Ghostbuster car. Now, this was never a function that we saw in the old movies, but this was apparent in the Ghostbusters cartoon where it would have special components like that would pop it out. There was a seat that would come out so a Ghostbuster can be shooting at it, and just adds to the world and the adventures that we could have seen in the past and what led Egon or Ray's character to add this component to the vehicle. cool. Chasing off this Slimer-like character. Like I said, I don't believe this is Slimer per se. We might get a cameo of him in this movie, but this creature is a lot less green, not as shiny. It definitely has the body shape, but there are certain characteristics that make it look a little different to me. Either way, if this does turn out to be Slimer, you know he's just gonna become friends with these Kid Busters. But that was just everything I caught that you might have missed in the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer. If there are Easter eggs that you guys saw, please go ahead and let me know down below. I'm super hyped and excited for this movie. Everything is turning up nice. Trying to keep my hopes in check because I don't want to be disappointed. Be sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Film Review. As always, I'm Chris. Take care.